All right, let's get it going. So good morning, everybody. Welcome. For everybody watching, welcome. Watching on StreamYard and Facebook, good morning and welcome. We are here with David Haley, Janie DeBacker, and Joe Geary for our top agent panel. Excited. We've got a good line of questions to ask. We've got a lot of good info. All three of these agents are selling a lot of houses. They've been in the business a while. They've had really good careers. So I'm excited to talk and have a conversation with them. So if you have questions or comments throughout this, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll be monitoring questions on Facebook and StreamYard here. So good morning. If you want to take a minute, Janie, you want to start us off and just quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi. My name's Janie DeBacker. I've been licensed since 2016. I worked with 3 different teams through Keller Williams the first 7.5 years. And then back this March of this year, I actually transferred my license to NettWork Global.
Awesome. Fantastic. Thank you. And welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Joe, how about yourself?
Yes, my name's Joe Geary. I've been in business since 2018. Started at Keller Williams originally on a different team, then moved to the Net Group, and now I'm a sole agent on the NettWork Global. So been here since NettWork Global started and have been loving it.
Awesome. Thank you. Welcome, David.
Yes, sir. David Haley, I've been licensed since 2007, so a really long time. I have been with a couple different brokerages. Started with Prudential Select back before Brookshire took them over, and then I was with Remax for a while, Keller Williams for a while, and then just came here a few months ago. Absolutely love it. I have been on a team. I'm currently running a team. I've been a buyer's agent. I've been a listing agent, and I actually work for a new construction builder for a while.
Awesome. Thank you all. Welcome. Thanks for being on. And so let's start off real quick because I feel like a lot of people get into this industry and they feel like immediately they should be making tons of money. But how long do you guys say, did it take you to start building consistent income in real estate where you felt like you were really a full-time agent? What would you say there?
Well, for me, honestly, I would say it took me probably 5 years to start earning a consistent income in this business. I moved here back in 2015. I didn't know anybody other than my husband. So I know I'm not the only one, but I felt like I had to start from the bottom. But that's kind of what I had to do. And with each team I worked with, I learned something very valuable, and that helped me push myself through that threshold and put me in the position I am in now.
Nice.
Cool. Okay. David, how about yourself?
So I started off right away and had several deals, family members, friends that all wanted to buy. And then I would say probably the first 6-8 months were great. And I was like, man, this business is easy. It's going to be no problem. Of course, it was 2007. And thought, man, I've hit a home run, leaving my normal job. And then 2008 hit, 2009. And then I was kind of second guessing myself of what did I do? Why did I do this? So 8 and 9 were pretty rough. In 2010 got a little bit better. And then I just trying to figure out my way. Was it best for me to be a solo agent? Was it best for me to be on a team? So I got on a team as a buyer's agent in 2010, and it was one of the best moves I could have made. Figured out the business, learned from people that were just absolutely killing it in the business, and was able to take my career to a whole nother level. And I've never looked back. It was the best decision ever.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. And Joe, how about yourself?
Yeah, so like I said, I started in 2018. At the time, I was 19 years old. So most of my friends obviously couldn't afford a house. They were either in college or just out drinking every day or smoking weed. So none of them could afford to buy a house or were eligible to qualify to buy a house. So basically kind of similar to Jenny, I didn't really have an SOI at the time. Obviously I had friends that had parents, but most of them probably wouldn't trust me at the time just because I was only 19, fresh out of high school. So I kind of had to start from the ground up and really just build my database and my SOI. And the biggest thing for me was just taking massive action immediately and just really cold calling expires, first sale by owners, door knocking, open houses, just kind of casting a very wide net and getting as many people in my database as possible. And that really didn't pay off until about 2 years. I started to have little spikes or little bumps here and there, but consistently it didn't really happen for me until 2 years in, where I started seeing a consistent uptick in business.
Very cool. So that's interesting. So each of you starting out had your own kind of set of challenges. Like Janie moving to a city where you didn't know anybody, you knew one person, your husband. Joe, you're 19, right? So like as you mentioned, you're young, right? You look like you're 12. That doesn't help. All right. We used to call Joe the baby-faced assassin. Young guy, but he was getting the job done. But it's when you're young like that, it's an uphill battle in a lot of ways, because you're trying to attract people that might be 30, 40, 50, 60 years old with a big purchase, and you've got to build that trust. And then David starting out in a market that was quote unquote good, moving into a market that kind of tanked. So a lot of challenges. So how did you all stay kind of early on in your careers? How did you stay motivated? How did you keep pushing, or how did you stay positive in an industry where it's no income? You can put the effort in, but there's still no guarantee of an income, right? It's still uncertain. So how are you staying positive during those early years when maybe money's tight and things are more challenging than perhaps they are today?
Yeah, so for me, I had two young boys. They were 2 years old and 4 years old. I had just left a career where I was making six figures. And so for me, I didn't have a choice. I had to figure it out. I did not want to go back to the career I came from. It was retail management. I was working, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. I didn't have any kind of personal life, anything like that at all. So I didn't have a choice. I was going to figure this out. I was going to do it one way or another. So I just jumped in. I started doing, 2 open houses, 3 open houses every single weekend, and just started having conversations that, were uncomfortable at first, because honestly, I didn't know what I was doing. I had no idea. I had bought and sold a house previously, so that helped. But other than that, I didn't know. And I just knew that I didn't want to go back to my former life. I came out of 13 years in retail management. I wasn't going back. So I just had to figure it out. And I started talking to agents that were super productive, high-end agents in the offices, and just said, what is it you do? Can I watch you? Can I, go with you to these open houses? Teach me how to do a successful open house. Sure, I can open a door and sit there for 2 hours, but if nobody walks through the door, well, that sucks. So I just started talking to agents that were actually doing business and figured it out. And, from there on, until about 2 years ago, I was doing 2 or 3 open houses every single weekend. And I built a business off of just open houses.
Very cool. Very cool. Janie, how about yourself?
Yeah, well, at least for me, luckily I had a strong support system. Like I said, it took me a little longer to build my business. So I had my family, I had my husband to keep pushing me to be better in order to succeed. More than likely without them, I probably would have quit and gone back into the restaurant business, which is what I was doing those first 4 to 5 years, being licensed. So now working in restaurants, that did help me with building my SOI and meeting new people. But I soon realized probably around 2019, maybe 2020, I needed to dedicate more of my time and just go full time into real estate. After talking with a couple agents and reaching out to them, that's what they suggested, and that's what they did themselves. So that's really when I started noticing a difference in my business.
Nice. And how about yourself, Joe?
Yeah, so I'd say for me, it was kind of a zero option mentality. Since I started when I was 19, obviously I didn't go to college or have any sort of education or skills post high school. So I kind of just went all into the sales mentality that, hey, I need to make this work, because the only other option I have is to go work a minimum wage job or go work at Target or Walmart. And I obviously didn't want to do that. So for me, it was just, I need to make this work and I don't really have another option. So it was kind of just burn the boats and make this work mentality for me.
Yeah, it sounds like everyone's very similar, my present company included, that it's kind of like that mindset or mentality around, I'm going to make this work, I'm going to figure it out, there's no other option. I was the same exact way. It was like, I need to go figure this out. And it doesn't mean like, I'm sure everybody on here who's thought about quitting at some point, like maybe this morning even, right? I think that happens a lot. And I oftentimes feel like, because I think people often think too, like at a certain point, it just becomes easy. And I think that's important for people to realize that it never just becomes easy. I think being able to handle situations becomes a little bit easier because you've got more experience, you've got more resilience, more skills, this or that. But it's not like, oh, I'm at this point now it's just simple for me. All right. And so I think that's cool that each of you had what I would call like a pretty strong why, or a powerful why, to keep pushing, to keep going, to make sure that you didn't quit, even though you may have felt like it. So how would you say, each of you, how did you build your business? Where does your business come from? Maybe what worked for you early on, and what worked for you early on, are you still doing it today, or how has your business evolved? And where would you say a lot of your transactions come from in the beginning as well as present day?
Well, I'll say you can't be shy in this business. Hesitancy and fear of rejection is probably the kryptonite, basically, of this business. So I did a lot of door knocking, holding a lot of open houses, sometimes 2 open houses on the weekends, calling FSBOs, expireds, which is not my strong suit, but I went for it anyway. Even sparking conversations with random people that I may meet at events, or if I'm out running errands or getting a coffee, all of these things I felt like helped bring myself one step closer to success. And even to this day, I still follow with those couple things that I do weekly. Very cool.
Very cool. So a lot of action, a lot of in-person, it sounds like.
A lot of talking.
A lot of talking, yes.
Talking.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and how did you deal with rejection on like door knocking? I'm sure there's a decent level of rejection. I know there is. How are you dealing with that when people are, nope, not interested, they close the door, they're not, this or that?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've had the door closed in my face quite a few times. But at first I'll say, yeah, it was probably in my early stages of this business, kind of like a punch in the face, like, okay, I'm not doing something right. What do I need to do better? Am I not saying something correctly? But I think at the end of the day, you just kind of have to take a moment to yourself and just, not every single situation is going to go the way you want it to. So move forward, go on to the next one. And I feel like if you just keep that mentality, you will get more business. Somebody will open the door and start to talk to you.
Totally agreed. So just not giving up.
Yep.
Yeah. How about you, David?
So early on, I was very heavy open houses. I did 1 on Saturday, 2 on Sunday, every single weekend, every weekend. And they weren't my listings. They were listings from the office because I didn't have any business. So it was very heavy on there. And like Janie said, a lot of talking. When I went into restaurants and I left a tip, I'd always leave a business card. And I frequent the same restaurants over and over and over and over again. So I would always have my laptop with me, whether I was doing something on it or not. I always looked like I was busy on it. And it would always spike conversations of, what are you doing? Like, you're in here every, whatever, Wednesday night and, blah, blah. Oh, I'm, doing this with real estate or this with real estate. And I've had, people that waitresses and waiters that are there that literally sit down across from me and just have conversations about real estate. And I sold them houses from that. But early on, it was really heavy open houses. And I don't know the last time, honestly, I've held an open house. It's been several years because I went from open houses to SOI, and 95% of my business is either SOI or past client referrals. I hired a coach several years ago, and that flipped me from doing just basically realtoring my face off and not knowing what I was actually doing to, time blocking and doing something that was a money-making activity. And my fear of rejection went away. Basically, one no is just one step closer to a yes. So it doesn't bother me. I've been married once before, and I've been told no a lot of times. So that doesn't bother me in any way, shape, or form. So like I said, I'm just really heavy SOI now. I'm very heavy my past clients. So that's kind of where I've evolved my business into.
Nice. Very cool. How about yourself, Joe?
Yeah, so I think for me, it was just taking massive action at the beginning. It was more so kind of the ready, fire, aim mentality, and just taking action and then kind of just figuring things out as I went. And I'd say another big part of it was just doing a ton of scripting. When I first joined the Net Group, all we did every single day for, I'd say, at least an hour every day was script practice. And that helped me tremendously because naturally I'm an introvert. I don't like to talk to people. I just kind of like to stay in my shell and not be bothered. But obviously, that's not going to get you anywhere in real estate. So the scripts were a big thing for me because it made me a lot more comfortable in an environment where you're just talking to strangers. So that definitely helped me out tremendously. And it was kind of similar to David is I would do a bunch of open houses, door knocking, calling expireds, FSBOs. I didn't really pick one specific niche. It was just kind of shoot a shotgun and see what you hit. And then eventually I kind of geared towards expireds and first sale by owners. And then, over time that's evolved to SOI and different lead sources that I'm using now to create business.
Yeah, agreed. So I completely agree with the scripting. Like, obviously, I'm a big believer. I would force Joe to do it every day. So it does work, though. I mean, I always say it cuts the learning curve. It takes out a lot of the uncertainty in the conversation if you just know what to say. And you can become a better active listener because you're not thinking about what am I going to say next as the person's talking. And so each of you, it sounds like open houses was a big strategy. If you're at expireds, for sale by owners, door knocking is a big one. Getting face to face with people, just any opportunity possible to talk or have a conversation with somebody you were and talking about real estate. And so, how has your business evolved, say, over the last 3, 4, 5 years? How has it evolved? And are the strategies you were doing to start, are you still doing those, or is it more now like focused on database or repeat and referral clients? Like, how has your business evolved over the years?
So as far as my business, it's evolved a lot because like I said, I don't do a lot of open houses anymore. I give the opportunities to other agents that are in the office to do those, and I'm more than welcome and more than willing to go with them to show them how to do a successful one. But I'm very, very SOI driven. Like I said, it's 95% of my business. I contact them weekly, like all the time. I'm always talking to somebody in my SOI and in my database. So that's where the majority of my business is. And since, getting focused on my business and what I'm actually doing on a daily basis in 2020, 21 and 22, I sold 55 units both of those years. So I don't know that there's no way I could have done that early on because I didn't know what I didn't know. I didn't know how to manage my day and I would just show up and do stuff and then went home and like, what did you do today? I'm like, I have absolutely no idea. I think I printed out some cards and I planned an open house. It's Monday. I planned it for Sunday. Like, what are you doing between now and then? I have absolutely no idea. So now my day is very, very focused every single day and just talk to my SOI literally on a daily basis.
Very cool. Very cool. How about yourself, Janie?
Yeah. So just like David, I mean, my business is driven by my SOI. Really my goal each week is to have 75 conversations. I do still hold open houses as often as I can, whether they're my own open house or if I happen to find somebody that has an open house available. I feel like it's a good way to get in front of new people and continue building my database. So, I mean, I get most of my business through referrals of past clients. So it's very important to me to keep up with that database. A lot of times throughout the week, I probably have people calling me, past clients, people that maybe I kind of slipped up, not following up with them, where they're referring over friends or family, or even themselves wanting to look for another investment or a property to sell or purchase. So yeah, I mean, as of right now, most of my business comes from my SOI.
Which is totally different than in the beginning when you first started.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. So I think that's important for people to hear too, because I think for a lot of new agents, they think that, same as you, Janie, and Joe too, and David to some extent, like you didn't have an SOI when you first started. So a lot of people, so you had to find other ways to go do things, but your business, or to find clients, but now your business has evolved to where you have enough people in your database, you have enough past clients where you're getting a lot more people reaching out to you, which is ultimately the goal. Like the goal is, like, if I have a client call me every day with a referral, I would much rather do that than cold call expireds. Mm-hmm. You know, so cool. How about yourself, Joe?
Yeah, so prior to 2020, there used to be quite a few expired and canceled listings. And obviously the market has shifted quite a bit since then, where we've been in a very strong seller's market ever since COVID, really. So it used to be heavily focused on expired, canceled, even for sale by owners. And over time that shifted. And I kind of had a realization that I used to kind of treat my business like it's just a transaction, like how much money am I going to make on this deal? I can't wait to get paid. And that's how a lot of agents start out. And it's very dangerous because number one, you're not really focused on your service. You're just focused on your paycheck. And then number two, you're not really focused on the long term. You're just focused on, I need to find a house to sell, make, $5,000 real quick, and I'll be good for the next month. And then over time, it shifted to, how can I build my business through service? Because I think that's a big thing for a lot of us, is if we provide phenomenal service to our clients, there's a very good chance that they're going to recommend us to their friends, their family members, coworkers. So I think a big thing is just focusing on your service and how can you be the best possible agent you can. Because it's easy to, be a terrible agent, sell a house, and then call someone and say, hey, who do you know who's looking to buy and sell? And if you have a terrible level of service with that client, even if you call them 50 times in a year, they're never going to recommend you. So I think a big thing is service. So after 2020, a lot of my business has shifted to, like Janie and David, SOI. And, I just happened to stumble, through my cold calling across some investors that I've been fortunate enough to work with for the past 5 years that generally sell between 10 and 15 houses a year. So that's been a big pillar of my business too, is they just are constantly flipping houses. So people could say it's lucky, but I did the work in the beginning to discover those people and find those people and then draw them into my SOI. So that's been a big pillar for me as well.
Well, what do you feel like that from a service perspective? Like, what are you doing that investors continue to want to work with you? Because we all know you meet investors and they say, well, if you find a house, let me know and I'll use you to buy it. And it's like, oh, really? If I find a fantastic deal for you, you would do me the honor of letting me represent you. And so, like, how do you get those investors though that buy homes with you, that list with you all of the time, that maybe even if they find a deal, they're calling you and asking you to represent them in the transaction? So what level of service are you bringing to the table that they want to continue to work with you?
Yeah, it's actually funny you say that, because I just had an investor this morning. He found a deal. He called me and he's like, hey, can you write the contract up for this? So I think the biggest thing is communication, because you find a lot of investors, they are kind of just searching for agents, and a lot of the agents don't even return their calls. And you kind of have to do a little bit more legwork with an investor versus a retail buyer or retail seller, because sometimes they might want comparables for 10 different properties. And most agents out there are going to be like, nah, I don't want to do comparables for 10 different properties. It's a waste of my time. I don't even know if they're going to work with me. So I think it's just doing that legwork in the beginning and kind of proving yourself. And I'd say another big thing too is making sure the investors that you're working with are seasoned, because there's everybody out there is an investor, even though they've never bought a property or sold a property before, but everybody is an investor or wants to be an investor. So I think it's important to vet the investors, to make sure that they actually have experience or they actually know what they're doing. And if not, making sure you can be the person to guide or educate them, because like I said, everybody wants to be an investor. So I think it's important to make sure you're not wasting your time with someone who might never buy a property. So it's a big thing for me as well.
It's a good point. Very good point. Absolutely. And then I know Janie, you mentioned your goal is 75 contacts per week. Does everyone have a contact goal? Is it a daily goal? Is it a weekly goal? But what does that look like? And what is that contact goal, and who are you talking to?
Yeah. So for me, it's 20 contacts a day. And it's SOI, past clients. And I don't set a weekly goal necessarily, because depending on what those conversations daily are, it may evolve into, okay, I need to up this because the conversations that I'm having aren't good. So I focus on my daily contacts and hitting them. And if I don't get my 20 today, then I'm doing 30 tomorrow. Because I can't let up on that. and it's all SOI and contacting those past clients. And I'm not calling the past clients to ask them, hey, are you ready to move yet? Are you ready to move yet? Right. It's, hey, you've been in the house 3 years. Do you need something done to your home? Do you need new flooring? Are you looking for a painter? Are you going to do a remodel? Right. I want to be the point of contact for everything. I don't care what you want to do to the house. I want them to call me. I want to find them the person to build that deck or to pour that concrete or to put a new roof on, or if they're looking for an insurance agent, I want to be the phone call for all of those contacts. So I do, part of my business is to call them and find out, hey, you've been in your home for 4 years. Happy home anniversary. Is there anything that you want to do to your home? And then we start talking about, their house and their experience, and, oh, they had a party last weekend. And, oh, I forgot that Susie Cream Cheese I talked to, she wanted to buy a house. Can you give her a call, or can I have her call you? Yes, you can have her call me. Better yet, give me her number, text her and let her know I'm going to call her. And then I call her and she goes down on my sheet to call that day.
Very cool. So that's 20 contacts a day is the goal. Do you hit it? And you said you don't hit it every day necessarily, but if you're basically, if you're not hitting it one day, you're replacing it. So the goal would be 100 a week.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a printout every single day of who I need to contact that day. It's not just like, I got to figure out who I'm going to call today. I have a printout of who I'm going to call. And if I don't hit those people get moved to the next day. Because sometimes those conversations go longer than I anticipate the conversation to go. I really want it to be, 2 or 3 minute conversation. And sometimes you get into that very outgoing person that may have not spoken to a human being in the last week and a half because they work from home. And that conversation ends up being an hour long. But that's okay. It gives me a lot of information, a lot of notes to put into the CRM. And then, I may have to carry a person or two over to that next day.
Yeah. So I think that's cool. So you're basically calling, you're not really asking for anything. You're coming from more of contribution value, just checking in, saying hello, how are things? How can I help? I think that's important for people to hear too, because I hear a lot of people will ask, well, what am I supposed to say? And we've all seen the scripts where it's like, hey, this is a business call. Do you have a few minutes? Who do you know that's thinking about buying or selling that I can help? And so I feel like if you're not doing a good job of just keeping in touch with your client, that's a really difficult call. Like if you haven't talked to somebody in 2 years and the first thing you're calling them and saying, hey, who do you know? I need help. Who can you send me? So it sounds like you're doing a very good job of just keeping in touch so that if you ever did have to ask for business, it wouldn't be awkward.
Absolutely. I mean, for me, this isn't a sales job. It's a relationship job. And I want to build those relationships. So when I do call them and my number pops up, it's not like, I don't have anybody. I don't know anybody who wants to move. And I know he's going to ask. It's not that. It's, hey, man, what's going on? Hey, I saw your kid had a ball game yesterday. How'd that go? What's going on with it? I see this kid's doing, some pitching lessons or something. How's that going? I did a lot of youth coaching before. So sports intrigue me a lot. So I Facebook stalk people, Instagram stalk people, see what they're doing in their life and give them a call and just say, oh, hey, I saw you had a wedding anniversary or somebody graduated college or whatever. Just having conversations. Everybody in my database gets a birthday card every single year on the birthday with a scratcher ticket in it, like clockwork every single year. It may be 2 or 3 days early. It may be 2 or 3 days late, but they are getting that card from me. And if I have their birthday, their kids' birthdays, their spouse's birthdays, whatever, they're also getting a card from me. And it does not include my business card. My business card will not be in those mailers to them because I want it to be about them, not about me. And when you make it more about them and less about you, the phone calls, like Janie was saying, when they call you and they're like, hey, I want you to list my house, or hey, my aunt or uncle or sister or whatever needs to buy or sell. That's a lot better feeling than, hi, Mrs. 123 Main Street. Do you want to sell your house? I saw it expired. No, click. That it's a better feeling to have the inbound calls versus the out.
Definitely. And so I like the scratch off idea or the birthday card. Do you have a system around that? Are you manually like buying the scratch off, putting it into the card, mailing it, or how are you doing that?
Yes. So I go, I don't know, I think I buy 25 or 30 a week. I don't know. I just go and buy them. And then, yes, they are sent by me because I handwrite the birthday card. So I've got a station over here that has all my cards in it. And it sits right here. It's got all my stamps. It's got all my cards in there. And every single day, I get on to my CRM or on Facebook, find out who has a birthday, make sure I have their address, and then I write, and then I stick the handwritten card with the scratcher in the mail every single day.
That's cool. I love it. Love it. That's a good touch. Really good touch. And how about you, Janie? On the 75 people is the goal to talk to. What do those conversations look like? Who are you calling? What does that look like?
Yeah. So kind of going back into what David was saying, the conversations I'm having with them is I'm not calling them, asking them for business. Sometimes, I mean, if it's a past client, I'll ask them, how is everything going in the new house? How's the neighborhood? But I also Facebook stock. So usually at the closing table with every one of my clients, I friend them on Facebook because everybody's on social media. So one of the things I was taught in my first couple years in this business was going on Facebook and liking, in the evening when you're kind of scrolling, like 10 to 15 posts of, friends, families, family members, or past clients. And with the algorithm, once you start doing that, they will see more posts of your own. So that's one way I try to keep in touch with them without even just the phone call portion of it. But when I do call, I'm asking them, hey, I saw you guys go on vacation the other week to Italy. What's that like? I've always wanted to go. Just some way to connect with them more. So it's a friendly conversation. It's not a business call, just like, David was saying there. So that's normally how those conversations are going. And I feel like once you build that friendship with them, they feel more comfortable to say, if they find a family member or friend that's looking to buy or sell, they're more inclined to send you and say, hey, she's very friendly. She knows what she's doing. She'll take good care of you. And a lot of the calls I get during the week happen to be exactly that, just phone calls from past clients sending me somebody because they have a good relationship with me.
Very cool. Very cool. And I feel like for people too, that's like one of the easiest ways is if you just use Facebook as a database in a lot of respects, because people are putting personal information out there on what they're doing. So it's easy to stay in touch. But if you just set a goal to make a certain number of comments, don't just like the post, but comment on it, and then use it as a reason to reach out. I mean, what a great way for reason to call somebody. Like you just mentioned, like somebody was in Italy. Call them. How was the trip? How was it? What were your favorite parts? What a fantastic opportunity to call people. I think that's awesome. Yeah, very good. And so we did put, we have a question that popped up. Maya asked, going back to the birthdays, David. So you ask all of your clients when their birthday is and the rest of the family?
Yes.
How are you getting that? Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of as a cheat early on, the title company has to scan their driver's license, their birthday's on their driver's license. So that was my early on cheat to get that. But now I have an all about you form that I have all my clients that I want to work with moving forward. I have them fill that out, and it asks for their name, their birthday, what college they went to, when their wedding anniversary is, if they have one, the kids they have, when their birth dates are, what are their hobbies, what restaurants do they like. I want to know what restaurants they like, because if I want to send them a birthday card with a gift certificate to Texas Roadhouse or something, right? What movies they like, what sports team that they like, beverages, all that type of stuff. And on the bottom it asks, do you have a financial planner? Are you working with a CPA? Those type of things, because I want to be that resource. If they don't, I want to get them that information. But I have them fill out this all about you form, and then I take that information, put it in my CRM, and then it reminds me that their birthday's coming up, just like Facebook. And that's how I obtain all that information.
Very cool. So you've got a system around it, a process. And I agree. I mean, early on, for anybody to make this super simple, just have the title company. That's what we did with our title company. We'd have them send us, when they send the disclosure, or like after closing, we would have them email us the picture of their driver's licenses. And then you can just simply take that information, put it into KV Core, and then KV Core will alert you and remind you when their birthday is. You could also put their home anniversary in there. That's an easy touch. You can set up in KV Core for a text and email to automatically get sent out for a birthday. So there's lots of ways to automate it, but I love the fact that David's taking it a step further, actually handwriting a birthday card, sending a scratch off ticket. I think that's a super cost effective way to get a response, and people like that. Like, who wouldn't want to get a scratch off ticket, right? Win $50 or 500 or whatever the case may be.
Yeah,
But, I think that's very cool.
And they really like that. I mean, there's not a lot of people that send handwritten cards. So when they get something that it just has and that's the other thing on my envelopes, I don't print out anything. I handwrite their name and their address and all that on there because I want them to know it's handwritten. If they just get another piece of mail that comes in with another label on it, they may or may not open it. They may rip it in half and throw it away. And I get a lot of people that joke that will send me a text, "Hey, thank you. I didn't win. Can you send me a new one?" But the ones that do win, every single one that wins, we'll take a picture of it and be like, "This is super cool. Thank you." It may only be $1. It may be $10. I think 150 is the most that anybody has actually won off of one. But that's a really cool. They're excited about it. And I've had people post it on Facebook of, "Hey, my agent sent me this for my birthday, and I won $50." That's really cool. So that's really neat. And as far as the relationship part, I've had, crazy things. Like, I've had clients take me on a cruise before, and it's not because I asked them if they want to buy or sell a house. It's because I built the relationship with them. I know when their kids' birthdays are. I send them stuff. I've actually shown up to their girls' volleyball games. Just, "Hey man, how's it going?" And just, I saw they were playing and swung by and then, had a beer with them and talked with them or whatever. And they were getting ready to go on a cruise. They're like, "Hey man, I can take you on a cruise for $250 a person. You want to go?" Yes, actually I do. So that would never happen if I was just like, "Hey, do you know somebody wants to buy, sell, or invest in real estate?" If that's the only thing I ask them, that's never going to happen.
Love it. So, I mean, you're taking the relationships deep, which is awesome. That's really cool. So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And Joe, how about you from a contact perspective? What's the goal? What are you doing? Who are you talking to?
For sure. So I kind of make mine result oriented. So I'm big on getting appointments because even if you talk to 200 people or 600 people and you set no appointments, I almost see it as a loss. So my goal every week is to set 2 appointments every single week. So regardless if I talk to 2 people or 50 people, my goal is to set 2 appointments. So with that said, I do about an hour of outbound lead gen every single day, whether it's expireds, for sale by owners, internet leads, and then every single day I utilize KV Core just because I'm not the super organized type of person that's going to, handwrite a list of people to call. I just like to rely on the system that works. And I use KV Core because you can put them on a campaign and it'll send you a reminder every single day on who you need to call or what task you need to do. So I utilize that very heavily just to kind of set up my day for who I need to talk to today and who I need to follow up with. And that's very effective.
So you're looking at the goals, 2 appointments a day. You're using KV Core to kind of show you who to call. So like on the dashboard, it's telling you who you need to call today because you've got people set up correctly in there. Very cool. So you're still doing expireds, canceled, for sale by owners, internet leads. You're still, in addition to your SOI, you're still doing a lot of what I'll call cold calling.
Yes, 100%. The expireds have definitely dropped off, but a lot of it now is more so like internet leads and different lead sources or someone who might have called off a sign, same thing similar to that, or a lead from a listing. So just utilizing those different lead sources to kind of fill in the gap for expireds while they are lower right now.
Got it. Cool. Okay. Awesome. And so what do your days look like? So what does your day look like right now? Do you guys have a set schedule? Are you doing the same things every single day? Is it consistent? Is it every day completely different? What does that look like? What's the structure look like? And Joe, we'll just start with you. What's your day look like typically?
Yeah, for sure. So my biggest thing is to do some sort of workout every morning because for me, the body helps control the mind. So if I work out, I feel a lot sharper. So every single morning between 5 and 6, I'll go to the gym. And then after that, I do something called the power list, which is basically you write out 5 critical tasks for the day that you need to complete. And these aren't things that are like, oh, I need to send an inspection report or do an inspection notice. It's things that are going to push your business forward. So every single morning, I'll write out my 5 critical tasks for the day. And then those will be my primary focus for the day. And then usually in the morning time between 8 and 10 o'clock, my goal is to do outbound lead generation and then also do my follow-ups. And then that way, my goal is to get that power list done as quickly as possible. So ideally by 12 or by 1. That way the afternoon can be set up for showings, appointments, or any other things that need to be taken care of.
So your days look pretty consistent, it sounds like.
Yes, yes, and they've definitely shifted more so from the beginning, because in the beginning it was just 100% outbound lead generation, and that was all I did. But now it's just a little bit more structured and a little bit less outbound lead gen, but more follow ups.
Yeah, a lot more follow-up. Yeah, absolutely. So, but you're basically getting up around the same time every day. You're doing your lead gen around the same time every day. And so it sounds like you're getting the most important things, which is like lead generation, follow-up, all of that, getting that done in the morning. So you've got the rest of the day to go do appointments, showings, whatever you need.
Exactly, and I think that's the biggest kind of fault a lot of new agents take, is they see it as flexibility. I can do whatever I want whenever I want. And if you have that mindset, it's just setting you up for failure, because you are your business. So you have to treat it like you're an employee of your own business. So if you don't show up every day to a job, you're obviously going to get fired. And you have to think of it the same way with yourself: is if you're not showing up every day, you're not going to get paid in 60 to 90 days. So it's easy to fall into that trap too. And, oh, I see this realtor on Instagram, and it looks like every day they're at the pool or they're just chilling on the beach. I should be able to do that too. But it's easy to fall into that trap on, oh, I got flexibility, I can do whatever I want, instead of treating it like a job. And I think it's easy for people to let their friends and their family members take advantage of them, because they're like, oh, you're a realtor, you have all this flexibility, can you help me out with this, tomorrow at 8 o'clock, instead of saying, no, I actually have an appointment at that time, I have to do lead generation or whatever the task might be.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Especially when I was younger, my friends would be like, well, dude, you don't have a job. Like, you can come help me move on Wednesday at 8 a.m. And so they didn't view it as a job, because I didn't have a boss, if you will, or have to be there. So yeah, it's really easy to fall into that trap. And I think too, a lot of agents that are new to the business will compare themselves to somebody that's been in it 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Like, that's what I would do. Like, I was at an office back in the day when I was the first one in every day. I would work like 7, 8, 10-hour days, and the top agent didn't do anything. But he didn't do it. Like, he came in like shorts and a baseball hat, and like he's selling like 30 million a year in sales. And I was like, what? But what I didn't put together back then was, well, he probably did all the hard work already. He's been in it 30 years. He's got a massive database, tons of past clients. So I'm trying to compare my first month in the business to somebody else's 30 years. It just doesn't compare. So I think for new agents, it's very important to have a schedule and to treat it like a real job. And eventually the business will become easier, where you have more people, just like everyone's talking about. You have more people calling you to want to come out and list their homes and refer you. But in the beginning, you've got to treat it like a job. So Janie, what does that look like? What's your daily schedule look like? And has it differed from when you first got into the business until today?
Yeah. So personally, organization is key for me. So usually I like to plan out my day the night before, so I have some sort of blueprint on how I'd like my day to go. I block out sections of time for different tasks, which just puts me in a better position to make sure I'm completing those items on my to-do list. But obviously, as you all know, things come up, things happen. So my day does tend to change sometimes. Like today, for instance, I planned on doing lead gen, but I had an emergency come in for another client. So I'll have to go and do something with them after this. But normal day, I usually start off with my morning routine. I go over that to-do list and make sure to be on my computer by 9:30 to start making outbound calls. And usually after that, I have about 20 minutes. I'll check my emails. I normally don't check my emails until I'm done with my morning lead generation. So I do not want any distractions. I want to get what I plan to get done. And then usually around like noon, I will take a break just to get my blood flowing again. So I may go for a quick walk or just something to get me up and moving and away from the electronics for like 20 minutes. Then usually after that, I'm just right back onto the computer. I'm planning out, working on really any marketing for any current listings I may have, or searching the MLS for homes for any clients, preparing for any upcoming appointments. For the most part, that is what my day looks like. But like I said, things do come up, and sometimes I do have to adjust my schedule for certain changes that may occur.
Which I think is completely normal. I've heard people in the past, like speakers and trainers, where they say they never deviate from their calendar. They're so regimented. And I'm like, that's not true. Like, I think we all have a schedule, and if you can follow your schedule 90% of the time, you're doing great, but you have to have some flexibility in there. There is going to be those clients that need to go see a house and they can't do it 9 a.m. tomorrow. And so you adjust and you adjust your schedule and you go do it. And it's the whole thing. If you erase, you must replace, right? It's like, okay, if I'm scheduled to lead gen for 9 tomorrow, now I'm going to go show property and I'm going to replace it for 11 or 12 or whatever the time may be. I think that's totally fine. I think that's important for agents to hear as well, is that you're never going to be perfect. Like I was talking to an agent yesterday about time blocking. She's like, oh, I'm getting better and I'm not perfect at it. I don't think we're ever perfect at it. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if we can follow our schedule the majority of the time and have some flexibility built in there, it's totally fine. It's that most people don't have a schedule at all and they just wake up and say, well, I got nothing to do today, so I guess I'll just watch TV, hope somebody calls, right? And so I think, yeah, that's cool. I like how your schedule, I like the fact that you don't check your email in the morning either, honestly, because I think that immediately could bring a bunch of distractions as well, and of course, to kind of fall off the calendar.
Yes. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times when I first got into this business that one of the first things I did getting into the office was checking my email. And I tend to fall off of that list of to-dos, making my calls because, well, this person needs something from me, or title company's reaching out for something. And then it just it messes up that schedule. So I start getting distracted, as I just said. And that was one thing I learned from the last brokerage was hold off on checking your emails, hold off on, taking phone calls from, a husband or family members, unless it's an emergency, of course, but stick to that schedule and you should be able to get everything done that you're supposed to get done.
Love that. Love that. That's awesome. And what about you, David? What's your day look like?
Yeah. So just to hit on what you said earlier, as far as erase, or don't erase, replace it. That's key, because there is a lot of times that you get stuck in a situation where you're like, okay, that client does want to go look at something. You're like, okay, well, I'll just lead you in tomorrow. Well, then tomorrow never shows up, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm very, very, very big into time blocking and calendar. This is what my phone looks like on a daily basis. That's the entire month. And I color code it. If it's in red, it does not move for any way, shape, or form. Now, obviously, if it's a hot property and I can't do lead gen at 9 o'clock in the morning, then that's going to move, whether it may be 4 p.m. But it's in my schedule that anybody that I have assigned to my schedule can look at it and be like, okay, well, he's doing this at this time. I can't schedule an appointment for that time. So this kind of gives a breakdown of, just kind of what my day looks like and what I have in there. I've got lunch scheduled into my calendar, because if I don't, I won't eat. I'll just work and work, right? So, I have a time that, is personal time for myself. I have handwritten note card time. I've got lunch in there. I've got call the buyers and lenders to get any pre-approvals that I'm looking for. So I have everything into my calendar on a daily basis, and I stick to it 99.9% of the time. If something happens and I've got to deviate, I do, and I just move it later on in that day. I do everything I can to not move it till tomorrow, because that's going to mess up my tomorrow. So I've got it all down into today. And at 8 o'clock every single night, I shut my phone off. I do not respond to anything. There's nothing in real estate that I can do at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night that I can't do tomorrow. Because honestly, if your house is on fire, don't call me, call the fire department. Right? So there's nothing I can do for you at that point in time. And if I'm typing up emails, and this is something that I learned early on, I'm in the office usually by 6. And if I'm sending out emails or getting my emails ready, I do not send my emails out at 6 a.m. because then people know they can respond to you and get a hold of you at 6 a.m. Don't do that. I schedule send everything. So whether I type it up at 9 o'clock the night before, or I'm doing it at 6, 6:30, or 7 o'clock in the morning, I schedule send it, and all of my emails go out at 8 o'clock. So there may be 8, 10, 12, 15, 20 emails that all go out at 8 o'clock, because at 8 o'clock, I've already prepared for my day. And I know that I can respond to an email when it comes up for at 10 o'clock. I'm ready to respond to an email, not start sending an email at 10 o'clock, because I'm already 4 hours into my day.
I like that a lot. I think that's really important too, that you're teaching people kind of how to treat you by doing that. I was guilty early on in my career. Like I would answer my phone at 10 o'clock at night. Like, why? why am I taking a client call at 10 p.m.? It's kind of silly when you think about it, but I was of the mindset, well, I got to do this. I got to grow. I got to, but it's like that conversation could have waited till, like, we're talking about termites at 10 p.m. Like, I could have waited till tomorrow morning. It was not a big deal, right?
And I set those expectations when I'm having buyers consultations and listing appointments. I let them know, hey, at 8:00 at night, that's the time with my family, right? If you need to get a hold of me, shoot me a text message. Let me know if I'm available. I'll respond. Again, there's very little times that I have to respond because it's something that can wait until the next day. Like you said, they want to talk about a termite inspection. They're like, hey, this house is coming soon in 7 days. I want to talk about that. Well, not at 9:00 at night. So yeah, just set those expectations up front on how you run your business, and people will appreciate that.
Totally agreed. Yeah, love that. And so how are you guys balancing? So that's a little bit of what I would call balance there, right? Like setting expectations, setting kind of office hours, work hours, setting the schedule. But we know we get busy, and we can get very busy. We're selling 2, 3, 5 houses, 6 houses a month. It gets busy. How are you balancing work, life, family, all of that? And so, because it's like, I know like Joe's a new father, so that's a new thing to add in, right? Like, how are you guys handling that, and how are you balancing work and life and making sure that you're keeping up time with the family and still keeping your business running?
So as far as me, again, I go back to my calendar. Everything is an appointment. Everything. I do not tell clients that I'm going to my kid's basketball game or I'm going to my kid's football game. I do not tell them that. I say, hey, I've got an appointment on Saturday morning from 9 to 11. Can we set up the listing appointment for this time or that time? I always say appointment. People will respect an appointment. People will not respect the fact that you're with your kid and you're watching their football game. They're like, okay, cool. Well, if you're at the football game, I can call you and talk to you about it. No, I'm an avid, diehard Chiefs fan, and I'm a season ticket holder. If the Chiefs are playing football, the chance of you getting hold of me is like less than 1%. So again, I set that up as an appointment, right? So it's an appointment in my calendar, and I let people know, hey, on Sunday from 3 to 5, I'm going to be in an appointment. I'm going to be in my chair watching football, right? But in all seriousness, I always say appointment because people will definitely respect that. And when I send over an inspection notice, I will say, hey, look at this today and let's set up a time tomorrow or Friday or Thursday or whatever that time is. Let's set up a time for a phone call and let's talk about that. I don't want to send it to them and say, let me know what you think, because then they'll call you back and they're not going to understand it, right? So I'm going to set a half an hour or 15 minutes or whatever that is for that specific client for that inspection notice. And they know, write everything down, get everything ready. When I call you on Wednesday morning at 9:30, from 9:30 to 10, we're going to talk about that inspection notice and we're going to get it all hashed out. And then I'm going to move on and I don't have to worry about this inspection notice for 3 weeks.
I love that. And I think I did the exact same thing. Everything was an appointment. Even my lead generation was an appointment. And I feel like if you treated everything, like if you treat lead generation like $1 million listing appointment, you're not going to cancel that listing appointment to go do something else. So everything should be an appointment. And I also agree with, because there's 2 schools of thought around like, the family time and this or that. But I was the same way. I would treat family type things as appointments. And I would tell people I had an appointment. I would never tell them, oh, I have to go to my nephew's soccer game or this or that. It's like, I've got an appointment at 1 tomorrow. What if we did 12 or what if we did 3 or whatever the case may be? Because I have had clients in the past who have said, well, we were working with this agent, but he's always at his kids' soccer games. And, I get family's important, but like, you're absolutely right. They don't see it. It's important to us. It's not important to them. But if you treat it like an appointment, I've got an appointment at 12. They don't need to know what the appointment is. And then it tends to work a little bit better. How about yourself, Janie? How are you handling kind of work-life balance?
Yeah. So again, just setting that expectation. I was going to say that right after you guys were just actually going over. When I first meet a client, I make sure to let them know from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. you can reach me on the phone, email, text. Anytime before or anytime after, unless it is a dire emergency, I will not answer my phone other than that time frame. And that goes into a lot back into what I was talking about blocking off sections of my day. I want to stick to my to-do list. Like I said, I know sometimes things come up, and like today with this random appointment I have to go on, but I stick to that schedule so that I can spend the rest of my day taking time for myself and my family. And going back into when people do call or they text you saying that I am in an appointment, I learned that early on, telling people, well, I have an event with family going on tomorrow. You think people would understand, but they don't, and they don't care. So always say that you're in an appointment. That's basically just how I balance, is just keeping organized and sticking to my schedule.
Yeah, valid point. And I think people think it sounds weird when they don't do it, but like even time blocking, like date night with your spouse or significant other, or time blocking time with them, or whatever the case may be. Like I put all that stuff on my calendar. One, because I don't want to forget, which I wouldn't, but maybe. But two, it's important to have that, and then I'm not overbooking myself, because I feel too like using a calendar now is way easier because it's on our cell phone now and all that. Back in the day, the paper calendars, and I'm dating myself here, but I had a U.S. title paper calendar early on in my career, and I would double book myself all the time because I would never have that stupid calendar on me. Where now I can just put it in my phone. It does work a lot better. So I feel like that's helped. But I think literally treat everything as an appointment, and it works a lot better. And how about yourself, Joe? Because prior to recently, you were now you're married with a baby, but prior to that it was easy because you didn't have anybody. That's what I used to always get. Well, you don't have kids. It's simple. Oh yeah, okay. Yeah. So now that you have a baby, how are you adjusting, and what does that look like?
For sure. So I'll just start off by saying my work-life balance is not perfect or not balanced at all. I'd say for me, it's more so like trying to be present when you are with your family or your friends. Cause I always used to be like, even with my wife now, I used to be really bad. Like when we were spending time together, about like always checking texts, phone calls, emails. So for me, it's being more intentional when you're having those moments with people that you love and care about. So just eliminating the distractions. So if you are going on a date night, or even just watching a movie with your family, it's just more so like I need to put my phone down and be present with them. And then I also like to, with my power list, it's the 5 critical tasks for the day. So those are the tasks, like I said, that move my business forward. So the way I see it is, if I finish those tasks and then any other miscellaneous tasks like showings, inspection notices, anything of that sort that's on my calendar, I have the rest of the day to do whatever I want or whatever I want to do. So it's not perfect balance, but it's more so like kind of incentivizing me to, hey, if I get all this stuff done, then I have as much time as I want to do whatever I want.
Yeah, I love that, because I do agree that in our industry, it's not like you don't have to grind like 10 hours a day. It's getting the most important. It's the 80-20 principle. Right? If you get done those 20% of things that will generate 80% of results, you can have a really good business. And it doesn't take, you can knock out, and like if you just put the core focus of your business, lead generation, follow up with clients, keep in touch with your past clients, this and that, you can build a really good business. And so we'll do 2 more questions. Why do you guys think that, we know in this industry, it's some crazy statistic, like 90% of agents fail in the first 5 years. Why do you think that is? Like, it's an industry where we can make unlimited income, right? Like we can make as much money as we want, but a large percentage of realtors fail in the first 5 years. Why do you think that is?
I think it's because they have absolutely no idea what to do. They don't know what needs to be done. They have an idea. They've maybe seen somebody doing things, but they come to the office, or they're working from home, and they're on Maris. They're playing around. They're looking at some things. They know they need to call somebody, but they're scared to death on what to say, or God forbid that person hang up on them. You can't slam a phone down anymore. They just push a button. It's okay. It's not going to hurt you. So I think the biggest thing is they just, new agents don't know what they don't know. And they, like I said, they just realtor their face off. They go into the office, they work for 8 or 10 hours, and they leave, they go home. And if they do have a significant other, or like my kids, they know, they'll ask me, hey, did you set an appointment today? If I tell them no, the next question is, why not? I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that. Right. So I don't want my 14-year-old to ask me, do you set an appointment? And if you didn't, why not? Right. So I think the biggest thing is they don't know what to do, who to call. And if they do know who to call, or they have a list, they don't have any idea what to say.
I totally agree with that. What do you think, Janie?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of reasons why realtors fail, but, maybe they weren't given the right tools when they started, or they didn't get the right training. But I mean, in my opinion, I feel like most people they just don't want to do the necessary work that's required to be successful, such as, marketing yourself, making the calls, not being fearful of rejection. I mean, that's your basic line. That's a good recipe for success. I'll tell you, when I first started, I would go into the office, and I was at Kelly Hager Group. And I would sit there and just stare at my computer because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. I mean, I didn't even have anybody to tell me this is how you should start getting into this. So I would go in for maybe 2 hours and just mess around, like David was saying, like go on the MLS, kind of search around, get familiar with the systems, but that's about it. And when I did make a call, because I didn't have that experience yet, I was not making sense when I was on those phone calls. So I had a lot of people hanging up on me, and I even had people curse me out. Like, what are you saying? You need to practice this, and trying to honestly school me when I'm supposed to be the one, calling them, asking for business. So, yeah, I mean, it just, again, like I said, you have to go out there, you have to make the calls. Don't be afraid of doing it. Stick to a schedule, and you should be successful.
Totally agree. I think that's spot on too. I think most of us, when we got into this, had no idea what to do. So you just stick with it and figure it out. Right. But I was the same way. I'd sit in the office. I'd go into the office because I felt like I had to, but I wasn't doing anything. I was there for the sake of being there, and I was messing around with a logo or this or that. And, it took a while to figure out, what do we need to do? And so totally agree. So we've all been there. That's for sure. And what about you, Joe? Why do you think most agents fail?
Yeah, so I think it's really three main things. I think it's lack of urgency. A lot of agents are just slow to do things, even communicate with their clients. Lack of discipline, so the ability to adhere to your schedule or the things that you need to do or the daily tasks that you need to do. And then I also think it's complacency. So a lot of agents will, start making $5,000 a month or $3,000 a month and get comfortable, and then stop doing the things that got them there. So it's very easy once your business is going, a well-oiled machine, to get very complacent, comfortable, stop doing the things that you were doing. And if you're not growing, you're dying. So I think that's how, once some agents get off the ground a little bit, how they end up failing is they just get very complacent with where they're at in business. And they're not looking, over their shoulder to see, hey, this guy's about to pass me. I got to step it up and pick my game up, because we're all in a competition. We're all competing with, 12,000 other agents, whether we like it or not. This is a competition. Someone's trying to get the listing that you're trying to get at the same time. So we have to see it as a competition. If we're not getting better, someone else is going to be better than we are.
Yeah, love that. Love that. And what do you think what is one thing, last question here, what is one thing that, being in the business now for an extended period of time that you all have, what's one thing you wish you knew back when you started, or what's one thing you wish you would have done when you first started that you're doing now, or that now that you feel could have helped, catapult your business quicker? Because we know a lot of people get into this, they don't know what to do. Just as we mentioned, we're sitting there, we're like, what are we supposed to do today? So knowing what you know now, what do you wish you would have done in the past to enhance your business faster?
Yeah, so I would say communication and being consistent. I feel like the most successful realtors, they're not afraid of doing that dirty work per se, like, doing the expired calls, the FSBOs. Even if you're not comfortable, start getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Door knock, do whatever you need to do to build that business. You have to put in the time and effort. You have to be consistent. Consistency is key. And I feel like if somebody would have told me about these couple things and, where to start to build that business, it wouldn't have taken me so long to get where I am today.
Love that. Yeah, love that. Absolutely. How about yourself, Joe?
Yeah, I say for me, it was just to think bigger when I started because I just feel like I thought pretty small. And I think if I would have thought bigger on, hey, I want to be, at this level instead of just the bare minimum to make myself comfortable, I think that would have motivated me more and catapulted me more in the beginning versus just kind of being like, hey, I just want to make enough to survive.
So you feel like you're mentally you've shifted over the years, like going from like because I feel we're all that way. Like I was the same way. I was like, I just need to make X amount to cover my bills. So I don't have debt collectors calling me anymore. That's all I cared about. It was like I don't want debt collectors to keep calling me. And I want to know when I go in my shower and I turn my water on, it's going to turn on because my water would get shut off all the time because I couldn't pay the bill. And so so you feel like you've expanded though over, like
Yeah,
you're thinking
and I
about
think it
differently than you were.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think it evolves too because like once you start to have those wins, you build more confidence and then you realize like, oh, I can actually do this. And then I think once you start thinking bigger, it kind of forces you to take more action and just do things that an agent that's just trying to survive probably wouldn't do.
Agreed. Yeah, love that. How about yourself, David?
Yeah, I think that I wish I would have known that this is a relationship business instead of a sales business early on, because I would have approached my phone calls and my open houses and some of those things a lot differently because I was just like, man, I just left a job and I got a paycheck every 2 weeks to nothing. And, I just needed a sale. I needed to do something to keep the lights on. Right. So I wish I would have known that and also have stayed consistent because when I got my first 3 deals, I was like, awesome. And I just focused on those deals. I focused on getting through the inspections and through the appraisals and then get to closing. And then we get to the closing of those 3. And I'm like, I have nothing lined up. 0. Had I done all the things as soon as I put those people under contract and kept doing the things I was doing to get those people under contract, then it just closing would have happened after closing after closing after closing versus 3 and then 0 for 3 or 4 months and then another 2 or 3 and then 0 for 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, the consistency. We've all been there though, where we get stuff under contract and we quit doing the activities that led us to put those people under contract. We have a great month and then we have to start over. And let's take one more here. We had a question coming from Sherry. What do you think is the best service you offer that's different from other agents?
I was going to say, I think for me, it would be communication, just being super transparent with my clients, whether it's a listing, making sure I get them feedback as quickly as possible, and then also having those hard conversations with them that other agents might be scared to make. Whether it's, hey, we need to make a price adjustment, or hey, your house is a wreck, we need to do something about it. So I think it's being willing to have those hard conversations and also being willing to have a great communication, whether it's a buyer, seller, investor, because at the end of the day, communication is the biggest thing that most people are looking for. They want someone that's going to answer their calls or at least get back to them in a timely manner, and then also be fully transparent with them and provide them knowledge and guidance throughout the transaction.
Totally agree. Love that. And we know it's a big issue in our industry, especially if you've gone on expired appointments. You know that the number one complaint most of the public has is they never heard from their agent. And so, yeah, communication is key. What about you, David?
Yeah, I would say communications is absolutely huge, and follow up. There's never a time where my clients are going to wonder what is going to happen next. They know that if we're just now under contract, this is the next step, and then when we get that finished, this is the next step. So there's never a time wondering, man, I don't know what's going on. I've heard that from expired listings, and that's a great phone call to have. Why do you think you didn't succeed, or why did you fire your other agent? And a lot of times, 9 times out of 10, like Joe said, it's going to be because they never communicated. We had no idea what was going on. We didn't know if we had a showing, and when we did have a showing, we never got any feedback on good, bad, or indifferent. So, I think that the communication and the follow-up is absolutely huge.
Agreed. What do you think, Janie?
Yeah, 100% communication. I can't tell you how many times I've had previous clients tell me that, I've worked with other agents and it was a pain trying to get a hold of them to schedule an appointment or just even ask them a simple question. You get their voicemail a lot. So at least I've been told that it's from clients and even other realtors that I'm very good at communicating, so that we can stay on task. We can do, I can help clients the best way that I possibly can. So I agree I think it's all around here that communication is definitely the best service that you can offer.
Totally agree, because we know it's a huge issue. And I always say too, if your client never has to call you, you're doing a good job. Like as David mentioned, if we're future pacing and telling them what the next steps are and what's coming next and what to expect, and they don't have to call you and they're like, hey, what's going on? What's happening with this? What's happening with that? You're doing a really good job. So yeah, love that. That communication is what separates you. We know it's a problem in our industry, so let's make sure we all continue to work better at communicating with our clients. So I want to thank you all very much for being on. I got a lot out of this. I appreciate your time. I know we ran a little bit over, but I think everybody online too enjoyed it. So I want to thank you all. Anything to say before we finish up here? Any last minute comments, thoughts, anything?
Go make some calls. Stick to a schedule.
Absolutely. Well, thank you all. This was fantastic. I appreciate you all being on. Thank you. We really appreciate it. And see you all real soon.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.